All right, we're here. Mining Disrupt, day 2, backstage, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm here with Larry Lepard, author of The Big Print. Larry and I recently did a show. It was absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done, and really opened my mind. So Larry, we were talking about just backstage, just the general macro environment, and the conversation started because I just asked you a question. I said, Larry, what's going on with the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And your answer was fascinating.
Yeah, so let me just elaborate on what I think is going on. And it's probably not what Bitcoiners want to hear right now, but so I think if you look at what's going on, where we are in the movie, right? We're at the point in time where the U.S. stock market is about to roll over. It started rolling over, broke through some critical resistance, and we're in a little bit of a bounce right now, but I think we're about to have another leg down. And this is all being driven by the Trump policies, the tariffs and kind of the disruption stuff he's doing. And the market doesn't like uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty. So, and the market is very overvalued using any historical measure. So I believe we're about to enter a market downturn, a fairly significant one. It's kind of down 10% from the top. I think we could easily go down 20 and maybe even 30 or 40 over the next few months. And if that's the case, that's a negative liquidity event. Stocks get marked down and people feel less wealthy, and it's a cyclical thing for the economy, et cetera. And so typically when that happens, all asset prices go down because people have to sell to meet margin calls, so on and so forth. And as I was saying to Nico pre-show, Bitcoin's not immune from this, sadly. It is sound money. It should be a safety bid, but it won't necessarily get a safety bid. And so I'm actually of the view that, just to cut to the chase, that we could see a lower Bitcoin price before we see a much higher Bitcoin price. And by that I mean maybe something in the high 70s, something starts with a 70, which I know is not what people want to hear. But I think it's possible. If it does happen, I don't think it'll last for long. And the reason I say that is that the Federal Reserve has already started to indicate they're going to loosen. They reduced the amount of quantitative tightening that they are doing from $25 billion a month to $5 billion a month. That's a big cut, and a concession, I think, on the part of Powell to help Trump out. And I think that when the market rolls over the way we're describing, it won't be long until the economy and employment and all the other indicators start to indicate softness too. And even though they haven't really licked inflation, they're going to look beyond that and just say, well, okay, time to get more aggressive about cutting, and they're going to cut. And when that happens, then Bitcoin's going to go the other way, and it's because that, in my view, will be the prelude to what will ultimately be coming, which of course is the name of the book, The Big Print. And so, as I said to Nico, I also think by the end of the year, Bitcoin's going to be at 140 to 250. So that's December. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, and this is just a guess. I mean, I've been wrong a lot, probably be wrong about this too. But you have to, when you're a macro guy and you're making investments, you're managing a fund, you got to try to make your best estimate of what's going to happen. And I think the stock market's in trouble, and I think that right now there's a lot of correlation between the high-tech stocks and Bitcoin. I think this cycle will break that correlation. That this will be the time when the stock market will roll over, and they will come with liquidity to try and prevent the downturn from occurring, and the stocks will ignore it, and Bitcoin won't. Bitcoin will go much higher. I also said to Nico, and I think this is really a big tell, will be when this stock market rollover occurs, watch what happens to the U.S. 10-year. Do interest rates go up or do interest rates go down? And the reason that's important is that if interest rates go up, that implies that they really don't have enough money in the system, and that they're going to have to go to QE and yield curve control more quickly. I mean, typically history shows that when the stock market rolls over, the bond market ought to get a bid. People who are selling stocks, they go to the safe haven of bonds. If you're going to have a downturn, you're going to have a recession, you want to lock in a yield. That has not been happening recently. The first 5% down in the stock market, bond market caught a little bit of a bid, and yields came down a bit. Second 5% down, the bond market went the wrong way. And I think this time, I think people are beginning to figure this game out, which is that we are in a sovereign debt crisis, noted by $3,000 plus, almost $350 gold, and Bitcoin, was at 106, admittedly down from that, but still both record highs within the last few months. And to me, those are both signals that the government is slowly but surely proving they can't solve this problem. And I think the reason the market's done as well as it's done right until now is that there's kind of a false belief that the Ledn camp and the Musk camp and the lovers of Trump, and by the way, I don't hate Trump, I just don't agree with everything he does. the leverage are kind of they've got a lot of happy talk going on. We can land this plane. It's going to be okay. We can cut back this expense. We can get the bond market down. I mean, they're talking about doing a lot of things that if they could do them, it would be a miracle. And so I think what's going to happen is it's going to become clear that miracle is not likely to happen, and that they're going to need help from the Fed to do it. And we all know what help from the Fed means. Help from the Fed means printing money, and printing money means Bitcoin and gold continue to go up. So that's a little bit long-winded, but it kind of summarizes what we were talking about, right?
Absolute perfect summary. And Larry, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Is this essentially, is this the price that is ultimately being paid for the extravagant money printing that happened in 21?
Yeah. I mean, look, the markets are just so distorted that, and look, I'm really glad Trump won. I mean, it's so much better than the alternative. But, I don't think God himself could solve this problem. I mean, they handed him a pile of shit. They really did. And, the deficits, Doge, Doge is trying to do the right things, but it's going to be too little too late. And so my view is just, there's no way to get around the fact that the free money bubble that, got created post 08, and then again worse, even more in COVID, when we grew money supply 40%, went to 0% interest rates. I mean, the chickens are coming home to roost, right, for that action. So
absolutely. And let me ask you something, Larry. Let's talk about your book, right? Because you said the Fed's going to be put in a position, they inevitably have to start printing money again. If you own assets, number go up. Middle class gets screwed. The system, right? The system continues to break. And something that really resonated with me about your book is how much of society's woes and issues and problems right now is tied to a single root cause, and that cause is inflation, right?
Thank you for pointing that out.
So could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really why I wrote the book. A year ago, I was watching Blue Team debate Red Team, and I just felt like this is insanity. They're arguing about all these things that do not matter, and there's one underlying thing that really does matter, which is inflation and control of the money supply. And you've got a Federal Reserve that at the extreme sets interest rates at 20%, Volcker, or 0%, Bernanke, or again 0% with Powell, and they're just out of control. I mean, it's like they're bouncing off these guardrails of inflation and deflation. And so, to me, that's what's causing all the problems. That and the inflation are why everybody's so upset and angry. And everybody's really hurting. I mean, the bottom half of this country is getting smashed. Even the top half of this country, is getting hurt. But they've got more resources with which to cushion it. But sadly, I think the markets are about to come after that as well, because for all these people who are sitting in the stock market, feeling good about life, basically Besant and Trump have said, we don't care about the stock market. We care about American jobs. We care about the American worker, and most American workers don't own stocks, and we care about the bond market. And so that's a big, big shift in policy. We haven't seen anything like that in a long time. And I think that's the right way to go. But here's the point I would make. I think a lot of people believe that you can just gracefully deleverage this big bubble and get out of this without there being some disruption and some pain. And from my experience, having lived through as an investor 2 of these big bubbles, 08 and 2000, that's just not the way it works. Yeah. When it turns and a bubble bursts, there's been a lot of misallocation. I mean, look, AI, it's going to make our lives a lot better. I get it. It's really important. But AI reminds me of the internet, the routers and Cisco back in 2000. There's been way too much capital put into AI. These valuations are nutty. And, history always shows that these kind of extreme valuations correct back to the mean. And so when that happens, imagine your average upper middle class family that has a lot of their retirement in stocks. Take those stocks down 40%. They're not going to be feeling so great. They're not going to necessarily go buy that new car, take that vacation, buy that rental property, whatever it is they might have done. And in fact, we learned this morning, I thought it was pretty interesting, Trump's definitely going through with these automobile tariffs. So, you're buying a car from Europe, guess what? Guess what? You're going to pay 25% tariff on top of it. So, wow. Yeah, and he's serious about this stuff, and arguably rightly so. I'm not criticizing the policy. I'm just saying, to think that we can do these policies and not have something break is, in my opinion, just not being realistic about the mathematics of what happens when you push on one thing, another thing happens.
Yeah, and it really, I'm going to use the title of your book, right?
Yeah.
The big print initially 2008, right? Just coincidentally when Bitcoin was born or discovered.
Well, it actually led to Bitcoin in a way. Yeah, right.
And it has it in the Genesis block. Right. Satoshi, foretold.
Chancellor on the brink. Yeah.
Correct. He knew that this was going to happen. They're just kicking the can down the road in a figurative way.
Correct.
Trump, I would say, I agree with you. There's things that I disagree with him on, but they're trying to do the right thing.
They are.
But is it enough? I don't think so.
Well, and it's too late. I mean, sadly, I mean, the only, people ask me, is there an easy way out of this? I mean, there's no easy way out of it, but there is a fairer way out of it, which is more of a debt revaluation, a debt reset. I mean, the problem is we've got too much debt as against the underlying assets. And I would highly recommend that everybody listening who's really interested in the subject and understanding it more clearly, because he and I are completely aligned, take the time to listen to the pod that just came out between Luke Groman and Danny Knowles on what Bitcoin did. Brilliant hour and 15 minutes. Lays out just what we're describing here in greater detail, obviously. I mean, it's they are in a position where they really don't have that many good choices. And so, and almost all the choices other than a collapse, which no one wants to have happen, are inflationary.
Yeah.
And so, as the book advocates, there is a way out of this, which is a one-time large inflationary event and a reset to sound money. And that would make the world really good. The inflationary event itself would be very painful. There's no way to get out of a sovereign debt bubble without collapsing the value of that debt. So people who own long-term bonds, they are going to suffer by definition. It has to happen. But history shows that in monetary resets, when you do reset and you get back to a sound money standard, things get better.
Yes.
So, my argument would be if we had really enlightened government, they would tell everybody this, they would explain it, they would try to make it fair, they would do it one time, it would suck, and then on the backside of it, we'd all recover and we'd operate in a sound money world. Sadly, that's not the way governments work, right?
Yeah.
They're going to wait until there's a crisis, right? And then, they're going to cobble together some solution. The first one probably won't work, and then they'll try something else, and that won't work either. And then eventually they'll get to the right solution, which is a sound money solution, right? Yeah. So that's kind of, if I had to guess, that's how it's going to go, right?
Absolutely. Well, everyone, get Larry's book.
Thank you.
The Big Print. It's available on Amazon right now.
Yeah, the book is a tool for orange pilling normies, and I know Bitcoin people like it, and I really appreciate all the love I'm getting from Bitcoin people. I'm measuring success in how many normies can we convert.
We got to break the Bitcoin echo chamber.
Yeah, we got to get this out into normie hands. When you're done reading it, give it to your friend, give it to your relative. Let's get the normies in here.
Absolutely. Well, Larry, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to HODL while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledn.io today.